Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the ChannelAdvisor webinar, E-commerce Trends and Actionable Tips to Help You Navigate the COVID-19 Crisis. I'm Ali Thiem, the editor of Power Retail, and it's a delight to have everyone here today. We've got a great webinar lined up for you, so very shortly I will introduce our panelists. But before I do, I have some quick housekeeping. This is going to be a really info-packed session, so if you have any questions for our panelists, be sure to pop them in the questions tab on the left-hand side of your screen. I'm delighted to introduce our guest speaker today, Helen de Souza, the Marketing Manager APAC at ChannelAdvisor. Lovely to have you here, Helen.
Thank you for the introduction, Ali, and hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. As Ali mentioned, I'm Helen de Souza, ChannelAdvisor's Marketing Manager for the APAC region. I've been with ChannelAdvisor for around 6 years now, and I simply love being part of the e-commerce industry. It keeps us up on our toes, right? It changes so rapidly, but that's what fascinates me, actually. When I joined ChannelAdvisor, we only had one prominent marketplace here, and advertising on social media wasn't a thing at all. And so much has changed in the last few years. And now with the COVID-19 crisis, we can see the adoption of e-commerce accelerating at a faster pace than we ever imagined. So we have quite a bit to go through today. Let's jump straight onto it. All right. So no need to say that COVID-19 hit us all globally quite hard. We thought the financial crisis of 2007, 2008 would be what would affect our generation the most. And now with this global health and economic crisis, the financial crisis looks quite small by comparison. The sheer speed and magnitude of this global economic halt is truly unprecedented in human history. And with the population of entire countries suddenly forced to stay home, all sorts of things have suddenly changed in the past few weeks, right? Supply chains and fulfillment centers have been disrupted, demand patterns have shifted, and how consumers shop has changed more suddenly and dramatically than at any point in human history. A few weeks ago, we would be struggling to find toilet paper anywhere in Australia. Even online, it was a struggle. How crazy is that, really? So I'm I'm pretty sure that at this point, everyone has seen this image that has been going around, especially on LinkedIn. All of the trends that we have been seeing around and we have been talking about for years here at ChannelAdvisor, such as the shift to digital, about brands going direct to consumer, about omni-channel strategies, and about some of the traditional retail models getting challenged. Those were true going into these, but now have been accelerated across all facets, either if it's about e-commerce or media, FMCG, you name it. So today's strategies and recommendations, they're quite varied and they are built to overcome some of the market disruptions that we are seeing. So let's see how the landscape has changed and what was impacted by the current pandemic. What we're seeing is that all levels and components of businesses have been impacted. And we had to face a huge change of the status quo, right? So there were sudden changes in buying patterns and behavior and the routine of consumers. Operations were being tested, having to adapt as the situation was progressing, and for investments decreasing to infrastructures needing to be updated to meet different needs straight away. It was a nightmare. But also one of the biggest impacts we have seen are the changes in the way that channels work for us and how we actually use them. And even for those companies we thought were prepared and fully digitalized, such as Amazon, this came as a shock to their system, and they were struggling to cope with the demand in parts of the world. I'm sure you've seen it on the news. So I think one of the biggest takeaways of the current climate is how crucial diversification and agility are for survival. And I'm referring to all pillars, right? So diversification and agility in adopting to new channels, logistics, countries, if that's in your strategy, and even your product catalog. So now let's have a look at the impact the current crisis had on offering. So there are plenty of brands across the globe who have adapted their lines to help the situation. And from Calzedonia and other fashion brands around the globe working to produce masks rather than apparel, to tech companies offering free premium services for free, such as Google and Hootsuite. And companies like that Group in South Australia, which is a manufacturer of food packaging, actually moving their product line to produce respirators and surgical masks. So no need to say that retailers around the globe have actually been affected in the current climate. Having to close retail stores all of a sudden imposed all sorts of issues to businesses, and those with low or no digital footprints were hit the hardest. A company like Primark in the UK had to temporarily close, going from selling £650 million a month to nothing. But then on the other hand, you can look at Accent Group. So they had to close a lot of their stores in March, but then they actually saw a leap in online sales. And this is actually leading them to reconsider their whole business model. Now let's have a look at some of the trends that we're seeing at ChannelAdvisor. But before we go into the next slide, please note that the data I'm going to show you and many others, they're actually available in a blog series that we have been publishing in a few weeks. They are based on billions of dollars of GMV data that go through our platform globally, and they're expressed as percentage growth. All calculations were done in US dollars. And I would like to remind you that I'm just highlighting a subset of categories and subcategories. This is not a proxy for e-commerce activity overall or the performance of any individual business, including ChannelAdvisor or the marketplaces. I've also gone ahead and removed the actual numbers so you can focus on the trends. So let's jump straight onto it. So what this slide is showing you is the GMV fluctuation from January to April, which is broken down by broad categories highlighted by the different colors at the bottom. And you can actually see the movement in the buying patterns each couple of days. So this data actually makes complete sense to me given the current climate. As people started to spend more and more time at home and gyms having to shut down, we actually saw a spike in sporting goods. Have a look at the brown line. And also in home and garden, look at the green line. But then if you actually look at the yellow and blue lines of phone accessories, jewelry and watches, we actually saw a decline in sales. And that also makes sense to me because that's discretionary spend, right? So now let's break the data down just a little bit further. So what you can see here that some of the verticals showcased in this graphic, they do well because they are in a certain category, such as computers and tablets highlighted in green, which are essential items for working from home, right? So we also saw a spike in March on the health and beauty category, but when we looked into it, it's mostly to do with vitamins and so on. So people were definitely trying to find ways to stay healthy during this crisis. So comfortable and healthy, right? But if you look at the yellow line for the clothing category as a whole, you will notice a drop. And this is because people are working from home and our gatherings have been so limited. We're not being able to attend any events in general. And most of the time, if I look at myself, I'm on Zoom. So the bottom half of my outfit is tracksuit pants. So I can definitely relate to that. I haven't been buying too many dresses and so on online. But so if we look at the same data and we break it down into subcategories, let's see what happens. So now, actually, what you can see here is that sweats and slippers, they are on the rise. And to me, what this data is actually showing is if you sell products of a category that has seen a decrease in sales, such as clothing overall, there might be some subcategories that you can push more, right? So what comes to my mind straight away are hoodies, pajamas, or things like bicycles, scooters, or anything to do with outdoor activities that are not set for large groups. So I think all of those are fit, but I'm sure there are lots of other products out there. So what I would recommend is that you really dig deeper in your product catalog and understand what it is that you can push more in these times. This graph here, it actually highlights and summarizes all of the previous ones I've actually shown you. So since this situation started, you could clearly see some phases taking shape. And they are actually highlighted in the different colors in the graph. So the first phase had to do with people getting ready for COVID. Then the bulk purchases started, and because everybody was shocked, and then people actually started getting their surroundings adaptable to stay at home. In the US, we even saw a bump in sales as a result of the stimulus package offered by the government in April. We are now on the next phase, of course, which we call gradual reopening. So people are actually looking for safe ways to resume their activities, right? But to me, what this graph is really showing us is that remaining agile is critical for businesses. Look at how much everything has changed in less than 2 months, really. That's why I believe that retailers and brands, they really should be listening as broadly as possible. So the question is, how do we adapt to this constantly changing environment? Firstly, I would recommend that you focus on subcategories or products that perform. Accelerate your digital strategies as well. I'll go into some digital strategies in a minute on the next few slides. Um, Also, I believe this could be a good time for you to explore new channels that you haven't sold before. You might already be selling on your website or on eBay. Have a look at some local heroes and niche marketplaces, and even consider selling internationally via some of these channels, especially if your data is in a pretty good shape. The reason I say this is that marketplaces offer access to a huge base of new customers, and many of them will consolidate and ship orders. They take care of tax issues, provide local customer services on some instances, and yeah, it's a huge opportunity. Let's have a look at the e-commerce market size and where Australia is actually positioned. So what this graph is showing us is that Australia's e-commerce market size is only 1.3% of the total e-commerce market size. Last year, it was worth $18.6 billion. And this year, it's on track to be worth $25 billion, right? Compared to $4.2 trillion, which is how much e-commerce is worth globally. So I would recommend that you look at these other markets, especially the top 10 that you can see on the right, and see if cross-border can be implemented in your strategy. Of course, there are various things to consider when expanding your business overseas, but all of those hurdles can actually be sorted um, based on the opportunity, really. And also remember that marketplaces, they are an easy way in. Like I said before, some of them will take care of the full buying cycle for you. So now let's look at some actionable tips and strategies for businesses. So Global Web Index ran a study from April 22nd to April 27th into 13 global markets, including Australia and like the US, the UK, and China, and so on. And the study was on insights of consumer behavior during the outbreak. And what it showed is that most people are okay with brands communicating with them, but there is clearly a wish for brands to adapt their offers, be flexible, and also show how they are responding to this crisis, right? So this means that it cannot be business as usual, and you need to adapt your messaging. So let's have a look at some content strategies. So this is definitely the time to invest in your content strategy because consumption of content is at an all-time high right now. So I would invest in both organic and sponsored content. And remember, it doesn't need to have Hollywood production value. Consumers will actually respond to authentic, sensitive, and thoughtful content. And make sure that you're testing and paying attention to what's happening to to the clicks and so on, and learn what's working for your brand, for your products. Also, if you haven't done this yet, please do as soon as possible. In an environment of crisis or uncertainty, your audience may have different responses towards advertising messages. So review your existing ads and targeting components. Make sure that they are fit for the current situation. Maybe a group of people at the pub or at the beach or at a restaurant right now is not the best image to use, given that all states in Australia, they're still limiting the reasons for us to be out and about, really. Also, start planning for future messages. And because we know social distancing will be part of our new lives, really, new lifestyles. And so many of those pictures for that or images that you were planning to use in future campaigns, they may not be relevant going forward. So have a think about that as well. And if you have evaluated your ads already, go and have a second look. There might be something that you missed with all this noise going around. Now, the online advertising strategies that you implement really depend on your situation and on your business. So, are you planning offense or defense? If you are playing offense, I would recommend that you analyze your current performance and be aggressive for the components that actually perform. Also, narrow a bit of the reporting window that you're looking at. Exploit gaps in the competitive landscape. Some companies are spending less on PPC, so there may be an opportunity for you to pay less for clicks. And even if you're paying the same amount or a bit more, you're actually not going up against all the competition that you used to. So if you're playing offense, this is a good time for you to reach or gain new customers and double down that customer acquisition. Now, if you're playing defense, this is the time to have a close look at your current structure and segment your ad spend based on products or product categories that are actually working, right? Also, refine your strategies, your audiences, based on important actions or non-actions that they take on your website or product pages and so on. So just remember, just because I landed on a product page and I spent a couple of minutes on it, it doesn't mean that I'm actually going to convert. It doesn't mean that I am interested and will be back to buy from retargeting and so on. So when you're watching every cent that you're spending, this is the first place to create savings. I would also recommend that you focus your advertising efforts on products that will not run out of stock quickly. So, and they have good margins, of course. So just the other day, I bought a dog blade online and the seller had to send me a refund and an apology email because the product was out of stock. And so that wasn't a great experience for me as the buyer. And also the seller spent advertising dollars on a product that wasn't even in stock. So another tip for you is for you to increase feed updates. So if you have no automation software for feed management, I would recommend that you use Google Merchant Center and supplemental feeds to keep your feeds up to date. If your products are selling fast, remove them from the feed when they're low in stock. Also, there was an announcement that came out recently is that Google is actually offering free shopping listings. That started at the end of April in the US, and they're actually planning to expand that offer globally by the end of the year. It's too early to predict how it's actually going to look here in Australia, but a couple of years ago, Google unveiled Shopping Actions. It's a transactional program that streamlines product discovery across multiple Google properties, such as search, shopping, and assistance. It also allows consumers to purchase products on Google through stored payment information without leaving the site. This is much like a marketplace, much like Amazon. And to me, it appears as a step for Google to broaden the selection on Google Shopping. So if you are already using Google Merchant Center and shopping ads in the US specifically, you are already eligible for free listings. You don't have to take any action at all, which is great. But yeah, let's see when it comes here. But now let's have a look at what life could be post COVID-19. So we can all agree that there's no return to normal, as we'll have to adapt to the new normal. Even without the pandemic, the landscape would have changed eventually. But of course, the pandemic has accelerated that change and its trajectory. So the landscape is evolving at a fast pace, and we don't clearly know what to expect in this gradual reopening phase we are in. It really depends on, number of cases, and it's state by state. It's so complicated right now. But what we really know is whatever plan you're devising, you really need to be agile and plan to change it and have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and even a plan D. Um, it's highly likely that we'll see a step up in e-commerce sales. Users are becoming more comfortable buying things online, and with how simple it is. The study that I mentioned to you earlier from Global Web Index, it actually revealed that over 40% of their respondents said that they will shop online more frequently after the outbreak, hitting actually 50% in China. And if I think it on like on a personal level, my mother bought so many things online during the lockdown, and I'm sure now there's no way back for her. She loved the comfort of getting things at home. I also experienced buying items that I hadn't bought online before. So I went to Office Work to try to find a home office chair. They were sold out. So I went on to My Deal and got one. It was a really good experience. And now I'm considering buying other items. I also bought pajamas, perfumes, and so on. So I am definitely one of those people that are definitely going to adopt buying more and more online. And I'm sure lots of people out there will be on the same boat. We also believe that advertising costs are going to go up, and that's judging the early data that we received from Southeast Asia. Also, remember that bulk purchases may not see the same level of uptake. So, if you're selling sporting equipment or other products that are doing well right now, they might not do well for a while, and that's because they are long-lasting products, right? So if I bought a new set of dumbbells, I won't need another one in 2 weeks' time. So just think about that when you're analyzing your strategies. Also, I believe that some consumers they might focus on being prepared in case of a second outbreak. So sit down and count your learnings, prepare and plan what you can do in case there is a second outbreak. And if there isn't one, great. At least you have a plan for the future. So as more and more people go online and the buying journey is quite fragmented, it creates more complexity for your business. You need better tools to help you sell more, reduce the workload, and also look at the analytics to ensure you're actually making the right decisions. And that's how we can help you. We manage and optimize your e-commerce activities through one single platform. And we connect with hundreds of channels globally, like Amazon, Google, Facebook. Locally here, we connect with Catch, MyDeal, Kogan, eBay, The Iconic, and so on. We also have a team of e-commerce experts in the background, which is great. I have an accent, but I'm actually based in our Melbourne office. Well, I was based before the outbreak. And if you want to learn how we can actually support your business effectively, please contact us at contact@channeladvisor.com and I'll get back to you. Also, feel free to visit our resources page to find more information around the COVID-19 topic overall and see more graphs of the different categories and the impact we're seeing in the industry. We have plenty of content over there and we are constantly posting new content as well. I would like to conclude by saying that, of course, we'll get past this pandemic, but remember, some consumer behavior will stay. And I believe that even though we are living through tough times, this is definitely a good change for e-commerce. So make sure that your business strategy is agile, and I really hope your business is doing well now and in the future. I hope you liked my first presentation with Power Retail, and I'll hand it back to Ellie now.
Thanks, Helen. That was great. And by the way, I think everyone loves your accent. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I also just wanted to thank you for this great presentation. There was so much information. I hope everyone brought a notebook and a pen and made some, like, scribble down some notes because that was just brilliant. I have a few questions to ask. So I'm going to start off. Could you speak specifically of the auto category and the trends that you're currently seeing in GMV?
Sure thing. So the graphs I've showed you today, they actually highlight just a few categories, but we do dig deeper into the individual categories. We did see a spike in author, but what I will do is I will send you a link to the blog series so we can actually dig deeper just in your category. Um, I'll also send a follow-up email and I can actually send you the link. And if you are a ChannelAdvisor customer for marketplaces, we actually have benchmarking data that allows you to see the trends in your specific category, and it's updated each month. So it's quite cool because then you can actually look at how it has been changing.
That's really cool. Do you have any tips for email marketers during this time?
Sure. Let me think about it. So, so at ChannelAdvisor, I do a fair bit of email marketing myself, but it's B2B, obviously. So we don't go direct to consumers. But if I think about the way we acted is we jumped quite quickly onto this. We had a discussion globally on how we would deal with it. And we started speaking directly with most of our customers and looked at research that was starting to come out on expectations and so on, similar to the research I showed you today. And what we were told is that it was important for us to show empathy and not to be very salesy. So for us, our customers are brands and retailers, and we actually have to remember that it is a tough time for retail, especially if you have stores, really. So what I've done is I shifted my content strategy, just trying to provide more guidance and be helpful really. I also made sure that I changed like just before I would plan my emails in advance, like 2 3 weeks in advance. Now I need to be agile with my own activities as well. So I decide what's going out on a weekly basis, really. And I believe this could be applied to the B2C model as well, actually.
Very cool. So you mentioned changing your strategy in terms of everything that's going on now. Would you should we change the way that we measure performance at the moment?
I think so, because if you think about it, what you were selling well this time last year doesn't work. This time last month, if you look at the data that I showed you today, definitely won't work. So I would look at the performance from the last 7 days, and then shorten the length of the data you're looking at as well, because things are changing so much right now. Yeah, be agile with your analysis too. That's what we're learning from the COVID-19 crisis, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. And that's the key message for this time as well.
Yeah,
I've got time for a couple more questions. So would you be able to provide some Facebook retargeting tips?
sure thing. So let me think. So if a person viewed a product detail page without making a purchase, maybe you could select a 7 to 14 day time frame, since they tend to buy more within those 2 weeks, really. And if the person added the item to the shopping cart before abandoning the cart, you actually you can select a shorter time frame, maybe 7 days max, and then that could move the purchase along. Also, a good one is to target those who bought before from you. So you could use ads to cross-sell products based on previous purchases. That tactic can work well as long as it's like 60 days or after an initial purchase, maybe 80 days even. That works specifically well for retailers. It doesn't work for us in the B2B space very well.
Well, it's still a great tip for retailers, especially if it's something that they're only just starting to get into.
Lovely. Yeah.
And we've got one last question. So you mentioned that there will be consumer behavior that has changed a lot in the last few weeks. What specifically may remain after COVID-19 has ended, or at least restrictions have lifted entirely?
Yeah. So some early research coming out actually indicate that there will be a new normal, which is an uptake in e-commerce, right? But and
Mhm.
I believe that, like over the weekend, just on a personal level, my friend went to Chadstone and she told me that it was packed. On the other hand, I still don't feel comfortable to go out to places where it's really crowded, you know. I don't like touching things and so on. And I'm really comfortable working from home right now. I just don't want to be around a lot of people. And I believe a lot of people are on the same boat as me. And,
Yes,
you know,
definitely.
yeah. So with that, you know, living the way that we are living right now, we are buying more and more things online and getting comfortable with the, you know, with the new normal. So I think,
Mm.
you know, we won't see the same uptake that we saw during the crisis where all stores were closed. But like I told you, like my mom, you know, she'll probably go back to the stores and buy things, but she won't buy every single thing on, you know, at the
Yeah.
store. She's more comfortable now buying online, and I believe will definitely this crisis is you know, is really good for e-commerce in general.
Oh, definitely. I know from
Yeah.
personal experience, I've always loved online shopping, and
Mhm.
I think retailers now are starting to embrace it because there's no other choice. So it'll be a lot easier for new online shoppers as well to get used to it
Exactly.
and really
Yes.
enjoy what they have to offer. Yeah. Well, look,
Of
I just
course.
wanted to thank you once again for being here. It was a really fantastic presentation. I absolutely loved it. And
Well, thank you for having me.
any, oh, not at all. So we have lots of questions that we didn't get time to answer. So Helen will be able to reach out to everyone individually and answer the questions as they come.
Yes,
To
sure thing. So I'll send a
thank
follow-up
everyone.
email to anyone who sent questions. No worries.
Fantastic. And I also wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Again, it's just full of information that's absolutely priceless in these times. So thank you to ChannelAdvisor for partnering with us for this webinar.
Thank
So
you. Bye bye.
thank you. Thank you very much. See you guys later. Bye.